Before I start, I would like to play an excerpt of a piece of music for you all to hear. And as it's playing, I would just like for you all to think about what you hear. Ready? So, what did you hear? That was the famously controversial, avant-garde piece of modernist composition, 433 by John Cage, in which the audience heard 4 minutes and 33 seconds of absolute silence. Now, some of you, upon first hearing about this, may already deem it genius, as truly no one else is going to replicate this piece, as it encapsulates a concept and not that of notes or rhythms. Others may be grimacing, not really understanding why this piece is as famous as it is, or even raising an eyebrow going, really? Is this what we call music now? If you are anything like me from a year ago, you would have been the latter of the two cases. For you see, I was not impressed. I thought it was simply nonsense. Sure, I understood the concept that Cage was pushing for, that silence is still music, and that we in the audience are making the music, essentially. But I could not understand the purpose. What was the purpose? All I heard was nothingness, emptiness, a waste of time, a nihility void of all meaning. Just play the notes. That was the first time I realized just how intolerant I was to silence. And why is that? It seems that we are constantly trying to fill silence with noise. White noise, chatter, awkward coughing, forced laughter, any kind of noise to fill the intolerable peace. The rush to get things done, the sprint of beating out time was a game I knew all too well. But whether it be noise or action, silence or pause, I was adhering to the noise-filled, bustling, busy schedule with absolutely no space for silence, for peace or pause to be a part of. There was no doubt that I was a bona fide workaholic. However, that wasn't the issue. You see, I was fairly balanced because my rest, my relaxation came when I would perform the opposite of silence, music. And while performing may seem like a tiring activity to some, it brought me to life. Standing under the limelight, microphone in hand, nothing else in the world mattered to me. It was these brief moments where I could let go of my schedules and the future and the fret of the unknown, and to simply stay in the moment, right here, right now. I would perform at venues, grand and small. I couldn't care less the size of the stage or the audience. All I wanted to do was get up there and sing. I was infallible because, in my mind, I couldn't fail. It was my moment. And it didn't matter what anyone else thought. I was enjoying my rest. But time did what time does best, and that is to change our minds. I grew busier, and with that gave way to a prudent, practical inclination. I no longer performed at small events, as it wasn't a pragmatic approach to my hobby. I went to competitions instead. So instead of singing for fun, I sang in front of severe-looking professionals judging each and every note. And it didn't help the fact that I was aiming to win more than anything else. Now, if anyone's looking to spike up their cortisol levels, I highly recommend this method. I did eventually win gold, but on the drive home, all I thought to myself was, how faint I felt the moment I stepped off that stage, knowing the stakes was just another statistic on my resume that I could not lose. Looking back, I think that if I sang for fun, I would have achieved the same honor. Without the vertiginous feeling of seeing dizzying rays of light. It sounds exaggerated, right? But with the amount of pressure I put on an activity that used to be my form of rest, the only form of rest I had, reduced to nothing more than just another filler in my resume. It got to the point where my music teacher had even asked me, "Do you even like music anymore, Yolanda?" I was so taken aback. I defensively retorted, "Of course I do." But I knew that I was so defensive because I wasn't sure if that was true. And I can never forget an incident that happened last year because of how thankful I am of it now. But I thought it would kill me then. I was going to perform at quite a formal, ceremonious event. I had prepared for weeks ahead of time, every single day, refining my delivery, polishing my vibrato, executing my messa di voce to perfection. Then, on the day of the performance, when I got up on that stage, all I could see was the blinding light and the dark abyss beneath the stage. And the worst thing that could happen to a performer happened to me. In the middle of my piece, in front of everyone, I forgot my lines. Now, I could make an excuse about how the song is from an Italian repertoire, a difficult bel canto song at that, in a language I was not fluent in, but that was no excuse, as I have done it before without issues. So as I stood with humiliation burning my face, I kept on asking myself one question: how did this happen? When I finished my song, I realized that as I was singing each line, my mind was anxiously searching for the next few, causing my words to fumble into disarray. That night, I called up a friend of mine who was also a performer, but for the dramatic arts. At that point, I didn't need consolation. I needed answers. I needed to know how she could perform at all these high-end theaters as the lead with such pressure and not fail a single time. And she said the most interesting thing. She goes, "What is failure to you?" If failure is forgetting a line, then of course I have. Every performer has. Failure to me is regretting a performance. And I have never done that once. And that's when it hit me that she didn't care about a result like I did, about whether or not her performances could enhance her resume or is as impressive on paper. All she cared about was her craft, was the pleasure she derived from simply being on stage, the same passion that used to fuel my art too. We went on to talk through the night, and the single failure had dropped an epiphany on me, one that helped time, as it does so well, change me once more. Returning back to John Cage's 433, say what you will about the piece, but as the silence filled with noise was played, time stood still in a way that allowed the audience to sink into the rest of being fully in the moment. And now, more than ever, I think it is brilliant. A year later now, I have reverted back to my zest for performance. I am at peace with silence now, and as I got ready to perform Musica Proibita again, the same song I botched the last time, I was not apprehensively rehearsing my lines, nor was I fidgeting with my dress restlessly. I merely stood in the silent hallway outside the backstage, closing my eyes playing 433 on repeat until I was called to the stage. Basked in the spotlight, I looked towards the audience and saw, once again, nothingness. But I realized that once again, I was free. And there were no sweeter melodies than the brief silences of the seconds before and the roaring applause that came when it ended. Thank you.